Hola, ¿se escucha bien? Bueno,
let us start. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. I'm Ignacio Eirale, and I work for the tech support team. Let's talk about GeneXus and with the smart devices apps, and I will tell you about how this works.
ahora sí las PPTs. Ahí.
What is this that you see on the screen? These are some of the programs, platforms, languages that must be known in order to develop an application when you don't use GeneXus on any platform, iOS, Android. That's a lot. Now imagine this situation. If I were a developer wanting to develop an application for Android, if I use Java, I need to use SDK for Android. I need to know how to develop a platform like Ignacio, and that's not the end. I would not be covering the whole market. I would be losing potential customers, and then I should try to develop it for iOS. I should learn a new language like Objective-C, use SDK, have a Mac, etc. And the same is true in the case of BlackBerry and Windows 8. That's very complex, that's time-consuming. And I cannot stop there, because maybe there's a new language like Apple with Swift, which means that I have to learn a new language, train my staff, or hire new staff. All of that generates expenses, also in terms of time and productivity. Another problem as a developer, I'm not able to control the number of devices, Android fragmentation, screens, resolution, and it is the user that chooses the device to use. As a developer, I have to adapt myself to the different devices and program accordingly. Now, there are two questions that come up as a result of this. How to convert the constant technology advances in an opportunity and not in a problem, and how to solve the multi-platform problems and the variety of devices. So GeneXus is here to bring a solution. We don't have to learn these languages because somebody else learned it for us. And the only thing we have to do is use this knowledge from a GeneXus platform. This will allow us to generate native apps for any platform, as GeneXus is multi-platform. GeneXus will allow us to generate ultra-sophisticated things like Objective-C, Eclipse, and so on, because GeneXus automatizes what can be automated. Now let's go into GeneXus to see how to develop applications for smart devices. To start with, we'll talk about generators, which are multi-platform in GeneXus. On the left, we have a smart devices generator. When we create any object for SD, GeneXus brings this generator into play because it knows we will develop an application for SD. On the right, we have some properties. I will mention a few. For example, generate Android, generate BlackBerry, generate iOS, and Windows 8. Here we have generate Android true, and we have the generator on the other side. And the same is true for iOS, changing from true to false and false to true. GeneXus will generate it automatically for that platform. Now, let's look at an example. This is an application with GeneXus. It's called Everyday, and you can download it and try it. Here we have a menu, an entry point for the application with certain items and applications for the user to execute. And if we tap on the orators or speakers button, we have a list of speakers with a picture, the name, and the company they work for. If we tap on any of the speakers, we will have this window showing the picture, the details about the speaker, his full name, country, and company he works for, and a very brief description. At the top, we have two tabs. This is general details, and the other tab has to do with sessions, that is to say, which conference will he be part of. Now here, this is a flow. We have layouts, and now we want to see how this can be generated with GeneXus. We have certain objects to that effect. This you see on the screen. We have a dashboard, we have a panel for smart devices, theme for smart devices, and word wing for smart devices. What is a dashboard? Dashboard is an entry point for the application, what relates all the parts, and will have actions to be executed by the user so that he can serve the application. Then we have a panel for smart devices, and this will allow us to show or receive user information, and depending on what we want to execute, we will develop accordingly. Then we have the theme for smart devices. This will allow us to work on the design of the application. Today, the design of the application is a fundamental factor. And there are animations, transitions, etc. And this will be done with this object. Finally, what is very important is the work with, which is a pattern. And this pattern receives a transition and generates a list and detailed structure. We'll see now how we relate all these objects with our example. From left to right, we have the menu, the entry point, how we serve the application. That's our dashboard. Then we have the list with all the details, the items on the list. This is called WWSD in GeneXus language. And this is the flow we wanted to achieve. Let's see how we create the objects. Let's go back to GeneXus. And we start by creating word wing for smart devices. We'll go to speakers, transition. We go to pattern, to the pattern tag, for the tag wing for smart devices, and we click at the top where it says apply this pattern on save, and this generates the object automatically. As you see, this object is under the node of the transaction. And now we'll open the object and see what GeneXus generated. On the left, we have the structure that we are looking for, the list of details, and if we use the list node, we'll have the design for this screen. Here we have the image and the name of the speaker, not the full name, just the name. And at the top, we have a button that says Insert. The button will allow us to enter a mobile device registry. In the example, we had the screen with the name, the full name, the company the person works for. If you compare this with GeneXus, it's not the same. Because here, let me tell you, this screen is 100% customizable. So we eliminate the attribute name and just put complete name, company. And we get the same as what we have in the example. It's very easy to do. Now we move into the detail node. Just to look at one example, general details, general information about the speaker, and GeneXus generates this layout automatically. And once again, at the top, we have two buttons, update and delete. These two buttons allow us to erase or modify any registration that we've made. And once again, going back to the example on the screen, if you were to execute this application with GeneXus, it wouldn't look the same. So we need to modify it once again by just downloading the attributes or deleting those we don't want or adding the ones that are missing. And we get the same example, the same screen as the example. Here we have our screen with list and detail, our WWSD, and we just have to create a dashboard, a menu, and an entry point. That's very easy if we go step by step. First, we create the dashboard. First, it's going to be empty, And on the right, there's a button that says Action, which opens this window, and we can add an object. Here we're going to add the word that we just created, and we will add the object. And the same is true for all the other objects. And another very simple way to add something to the dashboard is by drawing it until you get to items. And this is how we build the flow that we saw in the example. As I said before, GeneXus generates 100% native applications, which allows us to interact with the resources of the device. What do I mean by this? We will be able to make a call, send a text message, an email, interact with the agenda on the device to use contact information, etc. We can use the camera to take a picture or use an image that is already stored in the device. The GPS can be used to know where I'm standing. There's a map. And I can also share information across all the social media. So how do we do this with GeneXus? By using the semantic domains. These are a kind of data with an associated behavior. Let's look at one example. This is an application with GeneXus. On the left, we have the details of a company, which is GeneXus, and one of the datum is the telephone number. When we tap on this attribute, we see the window at the bottom, and we can make a call or send a message. On the right, we have the details of the speaker, and one of the details is his email. We think that if we tap on this, the application will allow us to send an email. How do we do this? This attribute, this variable, is phone or email. Another example is information about image, which allows us to interact with the device's camera. Here we have the details of a speaker. We don't have his picture, so we tap on the icon to add a picture, and the following window opens up. Take a picture or choose a photo from the device. The applications generated by GeneXus know which device is being used. If I were to use the same application in a device that has no camera, the take photo option would not appear, so it is consistent. It does not confuse the user at all. Another function is that the camera is an input to read QR or barcodes. Now let's see the APIs that we have in GeneXus. This is a picture of the folder view with all the APIs, and I'm going to mention just a few. We have geolocation API, which allows us to interact with maps, to look for the position. And this is the example of the application used in connection to this event. If you go to hotels, you see the map of Montevideo with all the hotels and where they are located. If you go into details of one hotel, you will see your current position, where the hotel is located, and so on. Another function that the API has is letting you know the distance between 2 points. Another function would be device tracking. For a transportation company, for a taxi organization, it adds power to the application. We also have the Twitter API. We can interact with Twitter. This is one example. We have a panel for smart devices, and in the layout we added a variable so that user can choose a photo or use the semantic domains, and at the bottom we have a tweet button. It's Twitter API.tweet, and we add two parameters, one a predefined message and the variable for the layout. So when you tap, the following window appears. We see the tweet that we're going to publish, and we can tell them about our current location, and by sending it, the tweet goes out. How does GeneXus know what my account is? If you have logged in your device in Twitter, it will send the message automatically. Otherwise, it will show you the application and you make the decision. Another example is related to the event. If you go to a presentation and you go press tweets, you will see all the tweets relative to that presentation. And if you press this button on the right, you will have a window, and the predefined code here is the code of the presentation. These screens can be modified. The user can add whatever he wants, and when you put publish, you publish the tweet. Then we have the Facebook API. It allows us to share information across users in Facebook, in the Facebook wall, on the Facebook wall. This is another example of this conference. If we want to share information with Facebook, this is the window that will appear with the information for our wall, and we can add comments here. Then we have the push notifications, and I want to highlight this because it's very important. It adds power to the application. It allows us to interact with the user, to stop being passive and becoming proactive. We can call the user to send him information, updates, etc. And this is very important. It empowers the application. One good example, I don't know if it happened to you, when I arrived at the Radisson yesterday, I received a welcome push notification. And finally, let me talk a little bit about architecture of the generated applications. We can identify two types of architecture depending on the application we are developing. On the one hand, we have those that work only when they are connected, and this application can use the cache of the device, but the database will not be local. The database will be centralized in a server, and we can communicate from the application to the server through the web REST services. This is the REST interface, the only possibility the app has to connect to the server to add, modify, or eliminate data. But we have our backend web, and we can also do the same transactions. And thanks to Evolution 3, we have applications that work when there is no connectivity. These applications are called offline apps, and they will have a different application. They are a different server. We will keep information when there's no connectivity on the device, and when it connects, when we finally connect, it will synchronize automatically with this database on the server, sending information, etc. Finally, let me invite you to the following presentations. One by Sebastián del Río in this very same room. He will talk about his experience in the use of tools and techniques to develop nice designs in applications, especially in projects where they do not use professional designers. Design is fundamental today for any application. Then Martín Torrado, in the same room at 10:30, he will talk about the SDO offline and its new flavors, what happens when there is no connectivity. Finally, the SD laboratory today on the 4th floor at the Picasso room at 11:45, so that you may test all these things yourselves and see how easy it is to work with them. That's all I have to share with you. Thank you for coming. I hope this was clear about the advantages of using GeneXus and how easy it is. So dare use it. Thank you.